I believe we're ready with our first speaker, Professor Giudici. I will leave you the floor. The professor is going to give us an overview on the master's degree in geophysics and how this is integrated, how sustainability is integrated into this master's degree. Professor, I leave you the floor and I look forward to receiving all of the questions from the students.
Okay, thank you, Federica, for the introduction. And okay, so I'm the head of the Master of Science in Geophysics. And as Federica already said, I will try to give you an idea of how we interpret this in our course, in our study course. And I start with the definition of sustainability, which I took from an English dictionary online. And the sustainability refers to or is related or is a method of harvesting or using a resource so that the resource is not depleted or permanently damaged. And it can also refer to a lifestyle involving the use of sustainable methods. Actually, in the Master of Science in Geophysics, we basically focus on the first definition, if you want, and method of using a resource, in particular, so that the resource is not depleted or permanently damaged. And so I will start with two questions. And the first one, okay, which resources are we considering, are we taking into account, and how can we check if the use of these resources can cause depletion or permanent damages? And the answers are relatively simple, at least for the resources. In particular, we are focusing on natural resources, mostly water and air, which can be considered also somehow renewable resources. And we also work on the search and exploitation of mineral resources and other kinds of natural resources. And the study approach that we have in geophysics is to consider the Earth as a complex system, as a system which consists of several compartments, starting from the hydrosphere, so the oceans, the sea, the lakes, rivers, but also groundwater and water in the soils, and the atmosphere. We have also the lithosphere, or if you want, the solid part of the Earth, the interior of the Earth, and of course also the cryosphere, so the set of all the glaciers and the ice sheet that we have on the surface of the Earth. And all these compartments each of them is quite complex, and they interact with each other. They interact also with the biosphere, and if you want, with the anthroposphere, with the artificial structures built by humanity. And the interaction is somehow controlled by the climate evolution of the planet. And so in our study approach, we consider the Earth as a complex system, as a system composed of these different compartments, where we have to study the processes which are relevant to understand the presence and the availability and the temporal evolution of the natural resources and the interactions, of course, among the different compartments. And we try to study the sustainability of the use of the exploitment of natural resources, working with or relying on the capacity in forecasting and prediction that we have nowadays. And this means that we have to join the monitoring and observation procedures together with the modeling, in particular physical and mathematical modeling. And so if we take into account this kind of study approach, we can say that the Master of Science in Geophysics is based on a background, on a strong background in geology, because, okay, we want to study our planet, and in physics, and physics must also be supported by knowledge in mathematics and computer science nowadays. And so these are the fundamental disciplines which are required sustain the pillars of the geophysics. And we go, of course, from the solid Earth to applied geophysics, which is the part of geophysics which takes care of the methods used to get images of the subsurface structure and where we can find some natural resources, in particular water and mineral resources. But also, of course, a great importance when we talk about sustainability is the pillar with the study of the physics of the atmosphere, of the hydrosphere and the cryosphere. So let's say the physics of the liquid part of our planet, where we have water, air, and this kind of natural resources, which are very important for the life on our planet. And so, starting from the basement with these pillars, we can come to the roof, and we can develop methods to study the evolution, the evolution, both natural evolution, but also, of course, the evolution, or if you want, the stresses, the pressure on the natural resources caused by human activities. And we look at this inside a holistic, if you want, vision of the Earth as a system. And to do this, we work with field data collection. And okay, there were a couple of students, I think from Brazil, if I remember well. And here you can see the picture of a colleague of mine who is sitting on the top of a tower above the Amazonian forest. And it's a tower which is equipped with several instruments to measure the exchanges between the Amazonian forest and the atmosphere in order to check the relationship between the atmosphere and this very important part of our Earth. Or here on the right, you see a picture of an instrument that we are using to perform transient electromagnetic surveys in this case, in the sea, to see the structure of the subsurface and try to describe the structure and the evolution of the subsurface. So we perform field data collection. Of course, there are also colleagues who are working a lot with observation from satellites, so spaceborne Earth observation. And with all the data that are collected and that you can also find and get from international organization, we need to process those data to extract information. And this is what I call data analytics. And this includes data processing, also with the most modern techniques of machine learning, but also with let's say more well-established methods of statistical analysis and so on. And of course, we want to predict the evolution of the natural system, the evolution of the presence of natural resources, or in particular, if we think about water, for instance, how water can be found in subsurface, how we can have transport of contaminants in water, but also in air. And to make some predictions, we need to develop mathematical models, and the basic goal is to solve some mathematical equations. And you see here two pictures of some of the most important equations that we try to solve. Don't worry about the symbols, but this picture is just to show you, okay, that we have, for instance, this equation is simply the equation which translates in mathematical terms the mass conservation. And this formula is nothing but the famous F equal ma equation by Isaac Newton, but written for a continuous medium. And as you can see, these equations are not so new. I mean, they were introduced in the 18th or 19th century, so quite a long time ago. but nevertheless, they are still posing a lot of problems to be solved. And so we have to find, again, methods to solve them accurately and to take all the physics into account in order that our mathematical model can predict in the best way what will be the future, the evolution of our planet and its natural resources. So I will conclude this, my short presentation with the basic some remarks, and from the point of view of a geophysicist, as I am, basically working on environmental sustainability in our case, from our point of view, requires to have solid scientific basis in basic disciplines like physics and earth sciences. And as we know, physics requires also mathematics and computer science as support, as a very important, relevant support. And with such solid scientific basis, then we can develop knowledge and skills, advanced knowledge and skills in the different disciplines of geophysics. As I mentioned we can go from the study of the interior of the Earth down to the center of the Earth. Okay, that is probably a little bit less important for natural resources, but not indeed there are some interesting connections also with that. And of course, with the study of the geophysics of the surface phenomena of the processes at the Earth's surface. And I want to stress one fact that is actually, I think, of general value, and it is the importance of transversal skills. I mean, in the world is changing so fast. The technological development of the world is so fast in the last decades that also the jobs that you will find in your future will change a lot. Actually, there are today jobs which were impossible to be predicted or to be imagined even when I was a student. So you have to be prepared also to possibly to adapt to this evolution even in the working market. And transversal skills are very important under different aspects. And for instance, if we remain on technical or scientific and technical aspects, for instance, we try to transfer to the students knowledge about data collection and processing and data analytics in a quite general way. I mean, we focus a lot on the methods rather than on specific applications, because we believe that this will be quite useful to adapt yourself in a changing environment, in a changing working environment. And also modeling and coding, so also the development of computer codes to simulate or to process data or to simulate the behavior of natural system, we believe is very important, as well as communication, not only communication with the general public, which is a very important aspect in the study of environmental sustainability, but also communication with people with different expertise. As you will see in the presentations of my colleagues in a few minutes, environmental sustainability can be interpreted in very different way and can involve not only the more physical aspects that I'm talking about, but also economical aspects, social aspects also, and other kinds of even other kinds of disciplines are involved in this. So also communication is very important. And so we have a look also on this set of transversal skills because we believe it's very, very important. And okay, that's all from my side. I stop sharing.
Many thanks, Professor, for the presentation. We already started to receive some questions, which is great. Don't forget to type them into the Q&A box so we make sure not to miss any of them. Professor Pozzi, I leave the floor, so we now move into the master degree in global environment development. I could already see some question regarding this topic. So, Professor, I leave the floor. Perhaps we're already going to answer some in your presentation, and I look forward to receiving the question from the students.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. So I'm here presenting a master in global environment and development. We call it merged. As you will see in a short while, this is done in collaboration with the University of Copenhagen and the University of Warsaw. And we are all operating under the umbrella of the 4EU Plus Alliance of the universities in Europe, which is fostering initiatives such as the one I'm going to present to you. So that's what we are going to talk in the next 9 minutes and 30 seconds to my watch. Why doing merged? So what are the strengths of our program and what is about and how do we teach? Which are our methods? Then we will have a look at the program, the mobility that is required, and the study plan, and how we do and think about making the thesis. And we will be shortly talking about the money, so the grants possibility. So why doing a master at Merged? That's a joint degree. It's funded by Erasmus. That means that, well, we are working towards having one degree provided by the 3 universities. And it's funded by Erasmus. That means that some of the students, let's say roughly half of each cohort, will get some money, which is some relevant money. It's about 1,500 euros per month. It's highly interdisciplinary. That means that the students actually do learn during the first year how to study things from an interdisciplinary standpoint. It's extremely applied. We will see that in a short while. We have work in the field, we have work in the lab, in the farm in some cases. And it's very bound to reality. That means that our students are, in some instances, working together with local realities. I'll be talking shortly about that. But keep in mind, so we try to make it as much as possible bound to things which are happening right now. So not only theoretical, not only through a computer, but actually in the field. So that's why you, the students, will travel quite a bit during the study plan. So we have field trips. And when I'm talking about field trips, I'm talking about 2 weeks in Borneo. That's the size of the field trips we're talking about. We have students from all over the world. We have more than, I think, last cohort, which is actually the first one. So it's a very new study course. We had more than 90 different nationalities applying. And currently in the classroom, we have about, I think, 23 different nationalities. The teachers and top scientists working for Merged are of, let's say, very high qualification, and take it with my words because I'm not teaching there, so I can speak for my colleagues, which are very good. And eventually, our graduates will work possibly with international organization. We have an ongoing program with the FAO, for example, and as you will see at the end, we have many stakeholders international. We have 2 specialization units, let's say pathways. We have the sustainable development, which is taking place in Warsaw, and the agricultural development, which is taking place in Milano. So I think that a couple of examples will make it clear what we are talking about. These are people in the Tibet region, which are harvesting those little worms here. Actually, they're not really worms, but let me be very imprecise here. These things are sold for a humongous amount of money for their economy. And we are very interested in understanding how they can have a living out of commercialization of those worms for the medicine, for the non-conventional medicine, and yet without completely exploiting the environment. So that's one approach we are taking. We are also very interested in understanding how can we make our future generation be safe in understanding that we are working for them. We don't even know them, but from a philosophical point of view, from an economic point of view, a social point of view, how can we make sure that we, the two generations here, will collaborate, although without even knowing each other? That's another aspect. That's another perspective we're taking. So that's what happens during the first year in Copenhagen. The 60 CTS, which are provided by the first year, are, as you can see, in very broad courses. For example, here, global challenges in environment and development, or here, practicing interdisciplinarity in the field. That's where the students do actually go abroad. Last year was in Borneo. They've been in Africa. They also been in Poland for another workshop of a couple of weeks. Also, they have elective courses which are designed based on the study pathway that the student undertakes. So then they move, and they have to move from Copenhagen either to Warsaw or to Milano. And the second year takes place either in the two universities, Milano, Warsaw, and the student must decide early on, that is when they enroll, which is the pathway that they want to undertake. So that's a number of courses that the students will take in Warsaw: global problems in the contemporary world, emerging sustainable development law. So as you see, there is some economy, there is some, let's say, law or juristic perspective. As you will see, all of us do have this merge intra-semester workshop. The student will gather together at the end of the semester, and they have to work on a problem, which is, how do you write a thesis? How do you undertake the work that will lead you to writing a thesis? That is for all the students, both Milano and Warsaw. The thesis takes place with 27 ECTS. That's what happens in Milano. We have livestock sustainability, mechanization, and water management. These are the three compulsory courses, so very much focused on how agriculture can not be a problem for sustainability, but rather a solution. And then we have restricted elective. So we want to pass the concept that agriculture, which works at nexus between increasing the productivity, because we're becoming more and more, but keeping it sustainable. So we'll be talking about regenerative agriculture in a way. And I don't want to, let's say, literally waste your time by describing the different labs in the three compulsory courses. I keep those slides for you if you have questions at the end of this presentation. So we have also elective courses, mainly in bioeconomic, environmental management, statistics, and forestry. You can find all the details in our webpage at the University of Milano, which you can easily find by Googling. So as I said in the beginning, we have a very interactive type of didactics. These are people which are here in Milano. This year, they are going to the farms, they are visiting farmers, they are understanding in the farm what happens. And these are the people. A couple of years ago, they went to Tanzania and they had a field trip. We also have workshops where the students do collaborate, do teamworks under the guidance of the teachers, of course. We have a very, I would say, extended network of collaborators and stakeholders. You can see those indicated here by those items here all over the world. And as I said, we are trying to keep most contacts with the international organization. So we have approximately 40 students per cohort, although we're not bound to this number. And we have half of the students being paid by the grants, the Erasmus grants. Half of the students are from European countries, and the other half is from the rest of the world. Just to mention, we had about 900 applications this year for next year cohort. So that's a short summary. I will present it if needed, but you can find all the information in our newly restyled website, which you can find here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor, for this brief overview. I could already spot some questions we're going to go through at the end, so stay connected because we're going to read them at the end of the presentation. Professor Pierce, I'll leave you the floor. So we're now moving into the master degree in valorization and sustainable development of mountains area. Some of you asked about presentation. The webinar is recorded. We're going to share the recording with you at the end. So in case you missed some details, you will be able to rewatch it. And in the case of the professor, he also made the presentation available, and I'm going to share with you all at the end. Professor, I'll leave you the floor.
Hey, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming this evening. And yeah, I'd like to talk about the master's course, Valorization and Sustainable Development of Mountain Areas. We also call it Mountainside, Mountains, Sustainable Development, which is just kind of easier. So again, we're going to touch on the theme of sustainable development, but in this particular case in the mountains, because mountains have a range of environments, also environmental extremes. So there is a huge range of products, traditions, and I actually can't show you everything. Now, I only have 9 minutes and 28 seconds to show you everything. In the first slides here, there are links to our social media presence. For example, Facebook, where you can check out photographs and see the actual activities of the course itself. I'd rather talk about the course program and spend some time talking about the specifics. So if you want to check out our social media for the photographs, I invite you to do that. So as Federica has said, the PDF file of this presentation is available in the chat, and you can click directly on the links. For example, if we go up to the top here, this link takes you to the main website of the course, so you can get all of this information. This is actually the main website where you can find the program of the course, where all of the different teaching activities are detailed. And I'll talk to you about the specific teaching activities in a second. I'd just like to talk about the kind of philosophy of the course and how it works. So apart from learning about sustainable development, the course also is sustainable in its own way because we're learning about the mountains in the mountains. UNIMI, the University of the Mountain, is part of the University of Milan, but it's actually in the mountains. It's not down on the plains where Milan is, but up, as you can see on this map. And specifically, I hope that you can see my laser pointer, but the University of the Mountains is actually in these buildings near the main train station. Everything is in walking distance. And our students actually come here and live and work. And so it's sustainable in a way because everyone is in one place. They're actually where the things are happening. And the teachers, the professors such as myself, come up from Milan or are based there. And that way we minimize the amount of movement, the amount of transport, because it's only a few people that are doing any long distance travel. So even at the way that the course is managed is trying to be as sustainable as possible. On the right here, we can see the main building where most of the offices and the laboratories and some of the teaching facilities are. There are other buildings as well where student life takes place. So these are the kind of facilities that we have. But I think what really interests you is what you'll be learning and how that can lead to a job. and the role of sustainable development in everything. So this is the program of the course. This is actually a document that you can download from this website. And I'd just like to take some of this course. It's a long document, but if we can put some emphasis on what we teach in the course, and then what kind of jobs people can get afterwards, this will tell you a lot about what we're trying to achieve here. So the general and specific learning objectives. So the master's course, taught in English, of course, aims to form professionals who are capable of promoting the enhancement, development, and sustainable management of mountain territories by applying innovative approaches to a systemic vision. Okay, a systemic vision, systemic means kind of looking at everything. And this is hinting that we're trying to teach everything with a multidisciplinary approach. So trying to teach about economics. A big part of sustainable development is the economic side of it, of course, but also about the environment, about agriculture and mountain environments, forestry. Trying to have a good general background knowledge, but also, as we've heard in the other talks, about the methods that are used to study the environment and study the problems and arrive at solutions to these problems in mountain environments. The kind of jobs that you can get with this kind of degree afterwards, well, there is a big emphasis on forestry and agriculture, but also the environment in general. So planners, landscape architects. Something that's not mentioned here actually is tourism. There are some teaching units on tourism. And in fact, one of our students that's doing the course at the moment explained to me that she wanted a good general background knowledge of all of these aspects of the environment, because she wants to work in tourism, but to be able to understand everything that's happening in the landscape. So that's the kind of professional figure that we're hoping to form. And this could also encompass, obviously, academia, so researchers, scientists, technicians in the laboratory or actually in the field. These are our kind of objectives. If you want more information on this, the whole document is available from this website, so I invite you to go and read it. But in the 5 minutes and 30 seconds that I have left, I can't present the 9 pages of this document. The exams and the courses that we're teaching then in this course, this is the first year. There is an element of statistics, for example, any scientific discipline, any investigation will involve quantifying and comparing. And so again, it's about forming the student with a kind of basis of how to analyze the environment and how to approach the study of environmental issues. So we do touch on things like geology, European law. This gives us a kind of framework in which to consider how professional people operate when they then work. Geography, history of development, of sustainable development in the mountain environment. My particular course where I teach is about ecosystems and the sustainable use of ecosystems. I'll just give you one example of this. A lot of products from mountain ecosystems involve plants which are used, plants which might be collected and transformed in some way into a product. And my own interest as a biologist is in doing this in a way that doesn't impact the wild plants, the natural populations. So I think, for example, when I was younger, there would have been this idea of exploitation, taking from the natural environment. But now it's very much how we can valorize the environment, so how we can use natural products, but also help them and sustain them and make sure there's also the economic side which is supported. So these are the kind of things that we'll be learning about in the first year. Second year, there's a big emphasis on economics, of course, because much of sustainable development is about sustainable economic frameworks. Renewable energy, sustainable mountain environment management. Here we touch on tourism, so sustainable tourism through landscape planning, for example. And a big part of working in mountain environments is also about communication. And I think we practice this as well with our course because we do, I repeat, we do have a big social media presence. Being part of the University of Milan, even though the students are up in Edolo, in this town up in the mountains, the students do have access to the other activities of the university. So part of the course program can be filled up, let's say, with modules and courses from the University of Milan. And they can include a wide range of choice of seminars and conferences, other activities that are organized by the university, okay? There are specific activities that are only available to mountainside students. So an emphasis on outdoor education, for example, or tourism management in mountain environments, and also touching on what I was saying before about conservation, mountain biodiversity conservation, protected areas. The last part of the course is the final thesis, which is 26 credits. This in part is the thesis itself, but also the exam, which adds up to the 26 credits. So that's the kind of course structure, the teaching units, what you would actually be learning about in the course. Just to give you a bit more information about course requirements, there is a requirement for English proficiency. This is at the B2 level by the Common European Framework for reference for languages. You can come with a certificate from an external body, and there is actually a list. The university has a list of accepted certificates, which you can consult. This is actually a very long list. So if you already have an English certificate, it's quite likely that you're on this list already. If you don't have an English proficiency certificate from an external body, then our internal University Language Center, SLAM, can check your level of English and help you with that, okay? At the moment, there is also a basic level of Italian proficiency, A2 level. This is a very low level. And this is basically to help you to live in Italy. So the kind of thing where, you know, if you're going to the supermarket, asking somebody questions on the street, that's the kind of level that's required. And this is a requirement at the moment. If I'm not wrong, this is a general requirement in Italy. And in fact, we're asking the ministry if maybe we could waive this particular requirement, but at the moment, it is still required. If you don't already have an external certificate proving an A2 level of Italian proficiency, again, the internal University Language Center can help you with that. And this could be that they help you when you enter the course, or the University Language Center offers 60-hour Italian courses. And this is a good thing about the Italian university system. You have more than one opportunity to take the exam, okay? There's not just one exam. You have 6 opportunities to take the exam. So if you don't speak Italian, it's not necessarily a problem. You'll be supported with that. And in fact, we should see this as an opportunity, not just to work in English, but also to live in a beautiful place and learn a bit of Italian as well. That's the last thing here. I just wanted to put 2 videos which are available on YouTube at these web addresses. And these are actually students that are doing or have done this mountainside course, and they can tell you directly about their own experiences. If you want any other information, go to the main course website, or you can even write to the teaching secretaries of the course. I'll be available later on for questions. I'm one of the professors on the course, and I teach very specifically the ecology and plant side of it. So I don't know necessarily everything about the course, but I'll try and answer your questions and I'll be available. Okay. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Professor. We're going to share then your presentation. Also, the Professor Giudici shared it with us, so we're going to make sure to make it available. Professor Bechini, last but not least, so we're going to introduce the Master of Science in Sustainable Natural Resource Management. Professor, I leave you the floor, and we look forward to receiving the question from the students, because after this presentation, we're going to answer them live.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for the floor. So the Master of Sciences is in Sustainable Natural Resource Management. And okay, what do we mean by management of natural resources? We mean that we have, of course, natural resources that were mentioned already by my colleagues, like forest, water, and so on. They provide ecosystem services, of course, and as humans, we may do two things. We normally try to manage them efficiently to receive something, or maybe recreation or irrigation water or other things, or wood. But we may also need to restore an ecosystem that is damaged. So in very short terms, in a very short expression, our focus is on assessing, managing, and restoring natural resources. I will say a little bit more now about this. This course, as any other Master of Sciences in Italy, is for 2 years. As you will see, it's very much interdisciplinary. It's all given in English, and it's strongly based on field and laboratory work. Okay. What are you expected to learn after you complete this master? You should become, in our opinion, a professional who can work with, on the one side, public institutions, and on the other side, with private companies, when you have to define and implement policies and plans that are related to natural resources. And therefore, you can contribute to the ecological transition with a particularly biological and naturalistic background. As you will see, this is one of the most important traits that characterize our course of study. Your learning outcomes will be focused in 3 main areas. The first area is forest management, planning, and forest restoration. The second area is the one of green infrastructures, nature-based solutions, and landscape scale management. And the third area is environmental monitoring and remediation. So we expect that with this background after graduation, you will be able to work as an expert in the management of natural resources, either in the public sector, for example, in public bodies like natural resource agencies and so on, that are dealing with environmental protection and development, or in the private sector as a part of the staff in laboratories, in professional offices, or in companies that offer environmental services, or also as a freelance professional. Your duties would be supporting administrations in developing policies about environment, develop sustainable planning and management of natural resources, dealing with environmental protection, analysis and monitoring, and on soil and water conservation. Now let's come to describe how the course is organized. As you will see in a minute, we accept graduates from different backgrounds. So we have established 12 credits that correspond to 2 courses that have the purpose to align students that come with different backgrounds at a roughly similar level. So depending on your background, you will take 2 of these 3 courses. So, for example, if you come from an ecological background, you will not take ecology, of course. You will take agricultural systems and soil science and this exam of law. For example, instead, if you come from agricultural or forestry sector, you will take ecology and law and so on. After these alignment courses that are given immediately in the first semester, first year, there are 36 courses, all in the first year, that have the purpose to build the fundamental disciplines that you will use later on in your laboratories, and later on even more when you will be a graduate. So all students will take these 6 courses. Each course is 6 credits, so in total it will be 36 credits. And as you can see from this list, you will have a bit of each of the tools that you may need as a natural resource expert. So you will have data management, basically focused on databases and a bit of coding. You will take environmental law. You will take hydrology, land planning and life cycle assessment, natural resource economics, and statistical methods. So all of these courses will give you one or more tools that you can later use in your future. And the first occasion to practice with these tools will be the interdisciplinary laboratories. We have 2 of these laboratories. The first one is given during the first year and will provide you with 15 credits. And then when we go to the second year, we see that there is a second interdisciplinary laboratory. I will say more about these labs in a while. But to continue with the second year, you will then have to acquire 15 credits of your choice. So you are free to choose, for example, a course from Merged, a course from Geophysics, and so on, another from Mountainside, or from Environmental Change and Global Sustainability. So from every master course in Milano, you can take something to sum up until 15 credits that are relevant for your path, for your interest. And to complete your study plan, you will also have to acquire 3 credits of language skills and 24 credits for a thesis. Let's say a few words about the laboratories, which are very typical of our master course and I think are very interesting. As I said, you have to take 2 labs. Each provides 15 credits. In the first year, you can choose. So you're not obliged to take a specific lab. You can choose between ecological and forest restoration, green infrastructures and nature-based solutions, and allelopathy in sustainable land management. When you then go to the second year, you can choose a second lab. And the reason why these labs have different letters and colors is that in the second year, you cannot take a lab that is from the same domain of the lab that you have taken in the first year. So for example, if in the first year you have taken a lab with letter A, so ecological and forest restoration, you cannot take forest management and planning. You can take either agricultural water management or environmental bioremediation. The reason is that we want you to have a quite wide range knowledge at the end of this master course. So we don't want you to focus too much on a specific domain. What do these labs have in common and why they are interesting? They are all interdisciplinary, so 3 or more professors contribute to teaching and guiding students in practicals. The professors guide the students to work in groups, normally on one case study in each lab. So the result is that learning is very much oriented towards practical activities. And I think that these labs, even if they are rather specific, of course, on a specific domain and not on a specific case study, you should take them as an example of a method that you can then apply to other natural resource management problems. Of course, there is a possibility to study abroad, but with the Erasmus program, and we can come to this during the questions if you have any about this. And I will finish saying 2 things. The first is about admission to be admitted, you have to possess or being close to complete a bachelor in agricultural sciences or in landscape planning or in ecology or natural sciences. You have also need to possess a B2 level in English, as Professor Pierce has said already for the other master. We will not evaluate your request with an interview. We will only evaluate your curriculum and your transcript of records for the exams that you have taken. And that means that after a few weeks after you have submitted your admission application, you will receive our answer. What are the deadlines? Very important. I see that today most students that are connected right now are from abroad. So consider that if you need a visa to come to Italy, you have time only until April 30 to submit your admission application. Consider that the application will be complete only if you pay 30 euros. Otherwise, we will not see the application. So it's important that you do this step. And after that, you will be required to complete everything in terms of documents before December 31st. I mean, the bachelor and the other entry requirements like the English B2 need to be demonstrated before December 31st. So this means that you can apply even if you are not yet graduated. The semester will start on September 22, and the single most important thing that I can say today is if you need a visa, move quickly, move on, because in my experience from the last 3 years, I've seen several students who were not able to come in time for the first semester because they didn't obtain the visa in time. And the web page to enroll is this one. You can also Google to search for this information. Even if the web page is still not completely updated, be aware that admissions are open already since a few days. And the deadline again is April 30 if you need a visa. This is a general website for the master, and thank you very much for your attention.
Many thanks, Professor, for this. Now, as promised, we're moving on into the Q&A part. Thank you all for your valuable question. Professor Pozzi, we have a question regarding the field trip. So you mentioned in your presentation there are some field trips. So they're asking if it's the student that usually take care of this cost or if there is any sort of support from the university. And then they're asking how this program is different than the other one presented and which job opportunity can give that are not going into research.
There is a lump sum which is provided to the students for the field trips. It depends where they are taking place and how long they are. So it depends the amount of money, but there is a lump sum. And concerning the differences between the courses, this course is, first of all, it's international, so you need to move. Second, it's extremely interdisciplinary, meaning that you study interdisciplinarity. It's not only about agriculture and sustainability, but you have an understanding on how you tackle the problem of sustainability from an interdisciplinary standpoint. You might be working, but yet we do not have a record because the next year is going to be the first students we will graduate. In sister programs we have at the University of Copenhagen, we know that the students will work in governmental or in international institutions. They might work in companies where they are dealing with the programs of sustainability of the companies. Some of them will pursue a PhD and then a research career. So that's what we can predict.
Perfect. And as you mentioned, you already received lots of applications for this program, so it's great. And we are sure that much more will come probably also after this event. Professor Pierce, you mentioned that let's say marketing is not really your field, but they're asking us if the course also provide some sort of marketing or how to promote, or if also soft skills are involved. And they say maybe I've not understood the focus on the master, but talking about promotion is also if soft skills are also taught in the program.
Well, like I said, I'm not an expert on the whole course because I'm just the botanist of the course, but there is one teaching unit, one module on in fact, if I can just share the screen.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So I can just go back. So we do have in the second year 6 credits on web communication theories and techniques. There are also parts of this which are about, for example, outdoor education. So there are courses that are specifically tailored to, how to communicate about these problems, how to tell people, and so yeah, I think that's taken care of there. Like I was saying, though, I'm not directly involved in those particular teaching units, so I can't tell you any details about that. But it's definitely something that we are aware of and that we do try to teach about.
Perfect. Thank you. For the Professor Giudici, we actually had a question more general. So they're asking relation of geophysics with climate dynamics. If geophysics can provide help or insight into the long-term climate dynamics.
Yes, of course. And I saw the question there. And the question also mentioned the effect of geodynamical evolution on the climate. And I just make a couple of examples, but it is well known, for instance, that large volcanic eruptions had and still have an effect on the climate, on the global climate of the planet. And this is a fact which is well known. It is well known from historical records, but it is also known from the observations that can be done nowadays. And this is probably one example. And of course, this has strong impacts, for instance, on the presence of dust, of aerosols in the atmosphere, and on the energy balance of the Earth, and also on the presence of clouds and so on, and so of rains, and so there is also an exchange of energy matter between the solid Earth and the atmosphere, which has impacts on the global change of the climate global change. Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Professor Bechini, you actually skipped at the end of the presentation, but we had a couple of questions regarding internship. So they're asking background requirement for the program, and if an international student, if he's able to take internship during the breaks with a student visa, or if he works differently.
Okay.
Oh, perfect.
So the background is, as I mentioned, from mainly from 3 bachelor types. So you can access this master if you are either graduated in agricultural or forestry sciences, if you are graduated in sort of landscape planning or similar types of bachelor, or in an ecological or natural sciences bachelor. Okay, these 3 branches are all adequate because they are all very much connected with the topics that are dealt with in the master. As I mentioned before, depending on your background, you will take a different combination of these alignment courses. So that was the first question. And sorry, what was the second?
The second one is
Internship.
regarding internship. Yes,
Yeah,
it's for
okay.
international students if they can take internship during the breaks.
Yeah. Of course, all students can go study abroad, mainly through the Erasmus program. We have agreements with about 30 European universities of the domain of this master. I mean, with agricultural and environmental universities. Abroad, you can follow courses that we will try to match with the courses that you should have taken here. Or what I mostly suggest, you could carry out an internship to do your thesis abroad in a lab in another university. There are internal calls for the students of our university that are published every year, and you can apply for them. I am not able to tell you anything about the visas in these cases because that's not my knowledge. Okay, I'm sorry about this.
Great. I mean, this was clear, but also in case there were more questions about visa, you can drop them and the colleague will be able to support. Perfect. Professor Pozzi asking about background. So if someone has done a bachelor in architecture, is he still a good fit for the program, or is there any sort of credits that they need to take in order to be able to enroll?
Well, it depends on the way they got the degree and which country they are from. So we have experience with some countries where the degree in architecture, for example, might contain some elements that we can, let's say, accept, so to say. What matters the most is the GPA. It has to be very high.
Thanks. So work hard to get into the program. Professor Giudici, they're asking is if there is a thesis work at the end, and if you can give us some example of what previous students might have developed.
Yes, there is a thesis at the end of the Master of Science, and this is more than one semester long, a little bit more than that. And I can give you the example for the next student who is going to be graduated, and he prepared the thesis working on the analysis of atmospheric data to support the assessment of the production of energy from wind. So from wind fields. Energy production, and this is an example, and this is a thesis which was developed in cooperation with the private company here in Italy.
Perfect. I could also see that there was a general question, so maybe I don't know if the colleague Marta or maybe Anna would like to answer regarding deadline of application. So they're just asking if the deadlines are open for non-EU students to apply, and if there is any sort of general information that we want to share.
Yes, deadlines for application procedures for the majority of our master's degree, open access master's degree, are already available. And as mentioned before by Professor Bechini, non-European students seeking a study visa have to apply within April. And we also remind them that they also need to make a pre-enrollment on the University Italy website. And once the university will have approved the pre-enrollment, they can contact the Italian consulate or embassy to start the visa process. But for the Erasmus Mundus master's program taught by Professor Pozzi, admission procedures are closed for non-European students, while they are still available for European students.
Perfect. Thank you so much for this clarification. So we're coming towards the end of our event. I'd like to thank our speakers for their presentation. We're going to make sure to follow up with all the students that were connected to share with them the recording of the event and also some useful information such as a brochure and also an email address to contact in case they have any further question. I'd really like to thank all of you for being connected, for all of your valuable questions. In case you'd like to download the certificate of attendance by Doxity, I'm just going to add a link into the chat. And as you can see, the team is very much approachable. So in case you do have any question over the next few days, don't hesitate to reach out and the team will be able to assist as each of your case might be different than the other. So thank you so much to all the professors, also to Anna and Marta for being connected and answering the question, and to all of the students. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.